The great hall of Zentari Prime buzzed with worried voices. Alien beings from across the galaxy filled the massive chamber. Some had blue skin and 4 arms. Others looked like giant insects with shining wings. A few resembled sea creatures that floated in water-filled suits. All of them looked scared. Ambassador Crickstal stood at the center podium. His green scales caught the light as he moved. His voice carried across the hall through translation devices. "Something is very wrong," he said. "The humans have gone silent. All of them." Murmurs spread through the crowd. The Velari Federation representative raised one of her 4 hands. "What do you mean, silent?" Crickstal's large eyes blinked slowly. 3 days ago, every human in the galaxy received the same message. Go home. Leave everything. Come back to Earth immediately. The insect-like Zephyhi clicked their mandibles in confusion. This makes no sense. Humans have been our partners. For 200 years, they helped us build the trade routes. They shared their technology. They fought beside us in the border wars, added a voice from the Aquatic Dominion section. My own pod worked with human soldiers on Titan Station. Crickstal nodded grimly. That is why we are here. In 72 hours, every human colony, every human worker, every human diplomat has packed up and left. They abandoned their homes, their businesses, even their alien families. The hall fell silent. This was unthinkable. Humans had been model citizens of the galactic community. They were known for their loyalty and their refusal to abandon friends. Meanwhile, far across the galaxy, Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of Luna Base. Through the thick glass, he watched the last transport ships rise from the moon's surface. The ships were packed with humans who had lived on Luna for generations. Many were crying as they looked back at their abandoned homes. "Sir, the final count is in," Captain Lisa Bennett said as she approached. Her uniform was wrinkled from days without rest. "All humans from the outer colonies are accounted for. The last ships from Mars left 20 minutes ago." Jake nodded, but did not turn away from the window. "And the classified materials?" "All destroyed or secured. Dr. Rodriguez handled the science data personally. Colonel Stone made sure the military files were wiped clean." Jake finally turned to face his captain. Lisa had served with him for 15 years. She had never seen him look so tired, so worried. "Lisa, I need you to understand something," Jake said quietly. "What we are doing, it is not running away. We are preparing for something much worse than war." Lisa frowned. "Sir, with respect, I still do not understand why we had to leave our allies. The Zephyhi on Europa Station were like family to me. I have known them since I was a child." Jake's jaw tightened. "Those aliens you call family, in 6 months, they might all be dead. Everyone in this galaxy might be dead. Unless we do our job right." Across the solar system, Dr. Sam Rodriguez was having his own difficult moment. He stood in his laboratory on Europa Station, looking at decades of research. Files about alien biology, studies of strange energy patterns, theories about deep space phenomena. All of it had to be destroyed. His assistant, Dr. Helen Foster, watched him delete file after file. "Sam, this research could help millions of people. Are you sure we have to destroy it?" Sam's hands shook as he worked. "Helen, if the wrong people got this information, it could doom everyone. The things we discovered, the patterns we found in those ancient ruins, some knowledge is too dangerous to leave behind." Helen looked confused. The ruins were just old buildings. Most species barely paid attention to them. That was their mistake, Sam said grimly. We paid attention. We studied every symbol, every warning, every piece of technology. And what we found. He stopped talking and continued deleting files. On Titan Station, Colonel Amy Stone faced her own painful duty. She stood before a group of alien soldiers who had fought beside her for years. These beings had saved her life in battle. She had saved theirs. They were more than allies. They were brothers and sisters in arms. "Amy, please explain this to us," said Commander Veltar of the Aquatic Dominion. His water suit bubbled as he spoke. "Why are you leaving? Did we do something wrong?" Amy's throat felt tight. "No, Veltar. You did nothing wrong. You are the best soldiers I have ever known. But I have orders. All humans must return to Earth. Immediately." "But why?" asked Lieutenant Jex of the Zephy High. His insect eyes reflected Amy's image dozens of times. "We are your unit, your family. We do not understand." Amy wanted to tell them the truth. She wanted to explain about the Ancient. Warnings about the darkness coming from beyond the galaxy. But her orders were clear. No one outside of humanity could know. "Not yet. I am sorry," she said finally. "I cannot explain. But I promise you this. What we are doing to protect everyone, including you." The alien soldiers looked, hurt and confused, as Amy walked away. Some had tears in their eyes. Others simply stared in shock. They had never imagined their human friends would abandon them without explanation. Back on Earth, President Kate Williams sat in a secure bunker deep underground. Screens around her showed humans returning from across the galaxy. Refugee ships landed every few minutes, bringing home people who had never expected to see Earth again. "Madam President," said General Ryan Cooper as he entered the room, "the evacuation is 90% complete. We estimate all humans will be home within 48 hours. Kate nodded, but did not look away from the screens. "And Project Sanctuary?" "Construction. Teams are working around the clock. The orbital platforms will be ready ahead of schedule. Engineer Tony Martinez says the new weapon systems are testing better than expected." Kate finally turned to face her general. "Ryan, do you think we are doing the right thing? Abandoning our friends like this?" Ryan's face was hard. "Madam President, if we told them the truth, they would panic. The galaxy would fall into chaos before the real threat even arrived. This way, we have a chance to save them, even if they hate us for it." Even then, as the last human ships crossed into Earth's solar system, automated messages began broadcasting to every alien world. The messages were simple. "Humans are taking a temporary break from galactic affairs. We will contact you when we are ready. To return, please do not attempt to follow us to the Sol system." The messages gave no explanation. They offered no timeline. They simply cut off 2 centuries of friendship and cooperation with a few cold sentences in the Galactic Council chamber. Ambassador Crixtel read the message aloud. The hall erupted in angry voices. Some aliens demanded military action. Others wanted to send diplomatic missions to Earth. A few suggested the humans had finally shown their true nature. But deep down, most of them felt the same thing: fear. If humans, the most stubborn and loyal species in the galaxy, had abandoned everything they cared about, then something very bad was coming. Something that made even humans run home to hide as Earth's orbital defenses powered up for the first time, casting strange shadows across the moon. The rest of the galaxy began to realize that their peaceful age was ending. They just did not know why. 3 months had passed since the humans disappeared behind the borders of their solar system. The galaxy tried to return to normal, but nothing felt right anymore. Trade routes that humans had helped establish began to fail. Scientific projects lost their most dedicated researchers. Military units felt empty without their human comrades. Captain Zix Moore of the trading vessel Silver Wing was the first to report something strange. He had been flying the same route between the Santaray colonies and the Outer Rim for 20 years. He knew every star, every asteroid field, every safe place to rest. But today, Something was different. "Control, this is Silver Wing," he said into his communication device. His 4 arms worked the ship controls while his main eyes watched the scanner. "I am picking up massive energy readings near the void sector." The voice from traffic control crackled back. "Silver Wing, there is nothing in the void sector. It is empty space." Zixmore checked his instruments again. The readings were stronger now. "Control, I am seeing energy signatures bigger than a space station. They are moving between star systems." "Silver Wing, run a diagnostic on your sensors. You must have a malfunction." But Zixmore knew his ship. The sensors were working perfectly. Something huge was moving in the darkness between stars. Something that should not exist. Similar reports came in from other ships over the next few weeks. Always the same story. Massive energy readings in empty space. Readings that disappeared when investigation teams arrived. Most captains were told they had equipment problems. Most began to doubt themselves. But the Zephyhi noticed everything. Dr. Clickstell studied the reports in her laboratory on Hive World 7. The Zephyhi had the best sensors in the galaxy. Their insect eyes could see energy patterns that other species missed. What she found in the data made her mandibles click with worry. "These are not equipment failures," she told her research team. "Look at the pattern. The energy readings appear in a sequence. They move from the galactic edge toward the center, always in the same direction." Her assistant, Worker Thixinol, tilted his head. "But what could be so large? And why can we only detect it sometimes?" Dr. Clickstall spread the data across her screens. "I do not know what it is, but I know it is not natural. Natural phenomena do not move in straight lines across thousands of light years." The breakthrough came when the Zephyhi checked their ancient monitoring stations. These were old devices, built thousands of years ago by species that no longer existed. Most governments ignored them because they were so old. But the Zephyhi had kept them running as a matter of curiosity. "Dr. Clickstall, you need to see this," Worker Thixinol said urgently. "The old stations are going dark." Clickstall rushed to the monitoring room. On the main screen, she could see the galaxy from above. Thousands of tiny lights marked the ancient monitoring stations. As she watched, the lights on the galactic rim began to go out, one by one. In a clear pattern. "How many have we lost?" she asked. 47 in the last week, all on the outer edge. The pattern suggests something is destroying them as it moves inward. Clickstall felt a chill run through her exoskeleton. "Contact the Galactic Council. Tell them we have an emergency." Meanwhile, on Earth, Admiral Jake Morrison stood in a war room deep beneath the Rocky Mountains. The room was filled with humans from every branch of the military and government. On the main screen, a countdown timer showed 127 days, 14 hours, 23 minutes. "General Cooper, what is the status of the orbital defense grid?" Jake asked. General Ryan Cooper stood and pointed to a 3D model of the solar system. "All platforms are operational ahead of schedule. Engineer Tony Martinez has exceeded our expectations. The new weapon systems are more powerful than our original designs." Tony Martinez stepped forward. He looked tired from months of non-stop work. "Admiral, we have completed the ring of defense stations around the asteroid belt. Each platform carries enough firepower to destroy a small moon. But sir, ... He paused. "I still do not understand what we are preparing to fight." Jake looked around the room. These people had worked for months without knowing the full truth. They deserved to know why they had abandoned their friends across the galaxy. "Tony, you are about to find out. Dr. Foster, please begin the briefing." Dr. Helen Foster moved to the front of the room. She had aged years in the past few months. The weight of humanity's secret had been crushing her. 3 years ago, Our archaeological teams made a discovery, she began. We found ruins on 17 different worlds. Ruins that belonged to species that died out millions of years ago. She activated a holographic display. Ancient symbols and images filled the air above the table. At first, we thought these were just dead civilizations. But as we studied more sites, we found a pattern. Every extinct species left the same type of message. Warnings about something they called the Devourers. Murmurs spread through the room. Many people were hearing this for the first time. According to these messages, the Devourers come from the dark space between galaxies. They arrive every few million years to feed. They consume entire star systems, leaving nothing but empty void behind. Colonel Amy Stone raised her hand. Dr. Foster, why did we not share this information with our allies? The other species could help us prepare. Helen's face was grim, because the warnings were very clear about one thing. Species that try to fight the Devourers separately always lose. The only hope is for one species to prepare in secret, then coordinate the defense when the time comes. But why us? Asked Captain Lisa Bennett. Why not the HFY with their advanced sensors? Or the Velari with their energy shields? Jake Morrison answered this question. Because humans are the only species that found all the warning sites. The other species ignored the ruins. They thought they were just old buildings. We were the only ones paranoid enough to study every symbol and every piece of technology. Dr. Sam Rodriguez stepped forward. Admiral, there is something else. The ancient warnings included technical specifications, weapon designs and defense systems that are far beyond what any current species has achieved. But they can be built if you combine technologies from multiple species. The room fell silent as people absorbed this information. So we are not just preparing Earth's defenses, Jake continued. We are preparing to coordinate the entire galaxy's defense. But first, we need the other species to realize the threat is real. As if summoned by his words, an aide rushed into the room. Admiral, we are receiving an emergency transmission from the Galactic Council. The HFY have detected massive energy signatures moving toward the galaxy. They are requesting immediate consultation with human experts. Jake looked at the countdown timer. 127 days, 13 hours, 52 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, it has begun. Back on Centauri Prime, Ambassador Crickstell stood before an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The hall was more crowded than ever. Even species that rarely attended council meetings had sent representatives. The evidence is clear, Dr. Clickstall was saying. Her voice clicked and buzzed through the translation. System. Something is approaching our galaxy from intergalactic space. Something massive enough to destroy our monitoring stations and powerful enough to generate energy signatures we can barely detect. The Velari representative stood up. Dr. Clickstell, could this be a natural phenomenon? Perhaps a rogue black hole, or a wandering stellar cluster? No, Clickstall replied firmly. The movement is too precise, too purposeful, and there is something else. We have detected similar energy signatures inside our galaxy, moving in formation toward the galactic center. A chill settled over the assembly. Species that had lived in peace for centuries suddenly faced the possibility of an unknown threat. What do you recommend? Asked Ambassador Crickstall. Dr. Clickstall's compound eyes reflected the lights of the chamber. We need to contact the humans. They left for a reason. Perhaps they knew this was coming. The council voted unanimously to send a diplomatic mission to Earth. As the meeting ended, beings from across the galaxy began to wonder if the humans had not abandoned them after all. Perhaps the humans were trying to save them. But from what? In the depths of space, beyond the galaxy's edge, something vast and hungry stirred in the darkness between stars. It had slept for millions of years, digesting the last galaxy it had consumed. Now it was time to feed again. The devourers had begun their approach. And this time, they were coming for everything. A diplomatic ship Harmony approached the edge of Earth's solar system. Ambassador Kriegstahl stood on the bridge with representatives from 12 different species. They had been traveling for 2 weeks, hoping the humans would agree to meet. Them, unidentified vessel, this is Earth Defense Control, came a voice over the communication system. You are entering restricted space. State your purpose. Kriegstahl stepped forward. Earth Defense Control, this is Ambassador Kriegstahl of the Galactic Council. We request an urgent meeting with human leadership. We have discovered something that threatens the entire galaxy. There was a long pause. Then, Harmony, you are cleared to dock at Luna Station. A human representative will meet you there. As they approached Luna, the alien diplomats gasped. The moon was covered with massive defensive structures. Weapon platforms pointed outward toward deep space. Energy shields shimmered between orbital stations. Earth's solar system had been turned into a fortress. By the void, whispered Dr. Kriegstahl. How did they build all this in just 6 months? At Luna Station, Admiral Jake Morrison waited in the main conference room. He had not slept well in weeks. The countdown timer in his head now read 89 days, 7 hours, 12 minutes. Time was running short. The alien delegation entered the room. Jake recognized many faces. These beings had been friends and allies for decades. Seeing their confused and hurt expressions made his chest tight with guilt. Admiral Morrison, Ambassador Kriegstahl said formally, "Thank you for agreeing to meet with us." "Kriegstahl," Jake replied, "I wish we were meeting under better circumstances." The SciFi representative, Dr. Kriegstahl, moved forward. "Admiral, we have detected massive energy signatures approaching our galaxy. Our ancient monitoring stations are being destroyed in a clear pattern. We believe something is coming, something dangerous." Jake looked around the table at the alien faces. These beings deserved the truth, but the truth was going to terrify them. "You are right," he said finally. "Something is coming. Something that will try to destroy every living thing in this galaxy." The room erupted in shocked voices. Several aliens began talking at once in their native languages. Ambassador Kriegstahl raised his hands for silence. "Admiral, please explain. How do you know this? Why did humans leave without warning us?" Jake activated a holographic display. The air above the table filled with images of ancient ruins, alien symbols, and star charts. 3 years ago, our archaeological teams made a discovery. We found warning. Messages left by dead civilizations across the galaxy. Messages about entities called the Devourers. Dr. Helen Foster entered the room carrying a datapad. "Admiral, permission to present the evidence?" Jake nodded. Helen had become the galaxy's leading expert on the ancient warnings. If anyone could explain this to the aliens, it was her. "Distinguished representatives," Helen began, "what I am about to show you will be difficult to accept. But every piece of evidence has been verified multiple times." She activated new images. The holograms showed symbols carved into stone, metal tablets covered with alien writing, and star maps marked with dark areas. We have found these warnings on 43 different worlds. Every dead civilization left the same message. The Devourers come from the darkness between galaxies. They consume entire star systems. They appear every 3 to 4 million years. The Velari representative leaned forward. "Dr. Foster, this sounds like mythology. Ancient stories to explain natural disasters." Helen's expression was grim. "That is what we thought at first. Until we found the technical specifications, new images appeared. complex diagrams of weapons and defensive systems that looked far beyond current galactic technology. The ancient civilizations did not just leave warnings. They left instructions, detailed plans for weapons that could fight the Devourers. But these weapons require technology from multiple species working together. Dr. Clickstall's compound eyes focused intently on the diagrams. Dr. Foster, some of these designs use HFY sensor principles. Others incorporate Velari energy manipulation. How could ancient species know about our technology? Because they faced the same enemy we are about to face, Helen replied. The Devourers have been attacking galaxies for millions of years. Each time, surviving species try to prepare for the next attack. Each time, they leave warnings and weapons designs for future civilizations. Admiral Morrison stood up. The pattern is always the same. The Devourers approach from intergalactic space. They destroy monitoring stations and isolated outposts first. Then they attack the galaxy's outer rim and work their way inward. They consume entire star systems, leaving nothing but empty void. The alien delegates sat in stunned silence. Finally, Ambassador Crixtal spoke. Admiral, if this is true, why did humans not warn us? Why did you abandon us? Jake's jaw tightened. This was the hardest part to explain, because the ancient warnings were very specific about one thing. Species that try to fight the Devourers separately always lose. The only successful defenses came when one species prepared in secret and coordinated the entire galaxy's response at the last moment. Colonel Amy Stone entered the room. She looked exhausted but determined. Admiral, the outer sensor grid is detecting massive energy signatures. Multiple contacts moving in formation toward the galaxy's edge. The countdown in Jake's head seemed to speed up. 89 days, 6 hours, 43 minutes. Colonel, how many contacts? At least 50, sir. Possibly more. They are too far away for detailed scans, but the energy output is ... unprecedented. Dr. Clickstall stood up quickly. Admiral, we must return to our worlds immediately. Our people need to prepare. Dr. Clickstall, please sit down, Jake said firmly. There is more you need to know. The alien delegates reluctantly returned to their seats. Captain Lisa Bennett entered with a group of human scientists and engineers. They carried data pads and portable holographic projectors. Ladies and gentlemen, Jake said, I would like you to meet the team that has been preparing humanity's response to the Devourers. Dr. Sam Rodriguez stepped forward. Honored delegates, for the past 3 years, we have been building weapons based on the ancient specifications. But these weapons only work when multiple species contribute their unique technologies. Engineer Tony Martinez activated a new hologram. It showed a massive device surrounded by smaller components. This is the Unity weapon, Tony explained. It generates an energy field that can disrupt the Devourer's feeding process. But it requires HFY sensors for targeting, Velari energy cores for power, aquatic dominion cooling systems for stability, and technological contributions from every major species. The alien delegates stared at the design. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. How do you know this will work? Asked the aquatic dominion representative. Dr. Rodriguez's voice was quiet, because we found records of its successful use. 4 million years ago, a galaxy similar to ours faced the same threat. They built a Unity weapon and drove the Devourers back into intergalactic space. What happened to that galaxy? Asked Dr. Clickstall. Helen Foster answered. 70% of their star systems were destroyed before they could activate the weapon, but the remaining 30% survived. Their descendants eventually rebuilt their civilization. The weight of this information settled over the room. The alien delegates realized they were facing a threat that could destroy most of their galaxy. But they also realized there was hope. "Admiral Morrison," Ambassador Crickstall said slowly, "what do you need from us?" Jake looked around the table at faces that had gone from confusion to fear to determination. "We need every species to contribute their best technology to the Unity weapon. We need your military forces to help evacuate civilian populations to the galactic core. And we need everyone to trust human coordination of the defense." "Why should we trust you?" asked the Velari representative. "You abandoned us without explanation." Amy Stone spoke up. "Because we spent 6 months turning our entire solar system into a fortress. We sacrificed our relationships with our closest friends to prepare for this threat. And because we are the only species that has studied the ancient warnings in detail." Jake activated one final hologram. It showed Earth surrounded by defensive platforms, weapon stations, and energy shields. "We have prepared the Sol system as the galaxy's final line of defense. If the Unity weapon fails, if the outer defenses collapse, Earth will be the last place where civilization can make a stand." The alien delegates stared at the image of Earth's defenses. They began to understand the enormous sacrifice humans had made. "You turned your homeworld into a battleground," Dr. Clickstall said quietly. "We turned our homeworld into a beacon of hope," Jake replied. "But we cannot do this alone. We need every species, every world, every ship that can fight." "Ambassador." Crickstall stood up. "Admiral Morrison, the Galactic Council will vote on full cooperation with human defense plans. But I believe I can speak for everyone here when I say, we will stand with you." One by one, the other delegates stood up. The Zephi, the Velari, the Aquatic Dominion, and representatives from 9 other species. All of them ready to fight. For their galaxy's survival. As the meeting ended, Colonel Stone approached Jake with an urgent expression. "Admiral, long-range sensors are detecting more contacts. The Devourers are moving faster than the ancient records predicted." Jake looked at the countdown timer one more time. 89 days had just become much less. "Colonel, send a message to all human forces." Begithy first attack came without warning. "Captain, Zixmore of the Silver Wing was hauling cargo near the galaxy's edge when his sensors went crazy. Energy readings that made no sense. Gravity distortions that bent space itself. And then he saw them. The Devourers looked like massive shadows that ate light. They moved through space like living darkness, consuming everything in their path. Stars went out as they passed. Planets simply disappeared. Even the empty space itself seemed to die behind them. "Control, this is Silver Wing," Zixmore said into his communicator. His forehands shook as he worked the controls. "The outer colonies are under attack. I repeat, unknown entities are destroying everything." Static filled the channel. "When it cleared, Zixmore heard panic in the controller's voice. "Silver Wing, we have lost contact with the Kepler sector. All communications are dead. How many attackers do you see?" Zixmore looked at his sensors and felt his heart stop. "Control, I count at least 20 massive contacts. Each one is larger than a space station. They are moving toward the inner colonies. Silver Wing, evacuate immediately. All ships are ordered to the galactic core." But Zixmore's ship was too slow. As he watched in horror, one of the shadow creatures moved toward him. It was the size of a small moon, but moved like a living thing. Tentacles of pure darkness reached out and touched his ship. The Silver Wing began to dissolve. Not explode, not break apart, but simply cease to exist. Zixmore had just enough time to send one final message. "Tell my family I tried to warn them." Then there was nothing but empty space where the Silver Wing had been. On Earth, Admiral Jake. Morrison stood in the war room, watching reports flood in from across the galaxy. Red lights blinked out on the star map as colony after colony went silent. "Admiral, we have confirmation of Devourer attacks in 17 sectors. reported Captain Lisa Bennett. Her voice was steady, but her hands gripped her data pad tightly. The outer rim is falling faster than predicted. General Ryan Cooper pointed to the tactical display. They are attacking in 3 main groups. One coming from Galactic North, one from Galactic South, and one from the trailing edge. Just like the ancient records described. Jake studied the patterns. How long before they reach the middle colonies? At current speed, 4 weeks, replied Dr. Helen Foster. But Admiral, there is something else. The Devourers are not just destroying inhabited worlds. They are consuming everything. Empty space, asteroid fields, even cosmic dust. They are literally eating the galaxy. Tony Martinez rushed into the room carrying a portable scanner. Admiral, I have been analyzing the energy signatures from the attacks. The Devourers feed on matter and energy, but they also feed on something else. Something we do not understand. What do you mean? Jake asked. Sir, they seem to consume the fundamental structure of space itself. Where they pass, the laws of physics become unstable. Stars cannot form. Life cannot exist. It is like they are erasing reality. The weight of this news settled over the room. They were not just fighting for their lives. They were fighting for the right of the universe to exist. Admiral, Colonel Amy Stone called from the communication station. Incoming transmission from the Galactic Council. Emergency session in progress. The main screen activated, showing the council chamber on Centauri Prime. But the chamber was chaos. Hundreds of species representatives were shouting in their native languages. Ambassador Crickstall was trying to maintain order, but panic had taken hold. Admiral Morrison. Crickstall said when he saw Jake on the screen, "We need immediate assistance. Refugee fleets are arriving faster than we can process them. We have billions of beings with nowhere to go." Jake could see the problem on the status displays. Massive streams of ships were fleeing toward the galactic center, but there were not enough safe worlds to hold everyone. Crickstall began redirecting all refugee fleets toward the Sol system. We have prepared emergency shelters on Earth, Mars, and the outer moons. The alien ambassador's eyes widened. Admiral, that could be 1 trillion beings or more. Your system cannot possibly hold that many. We will make room, Jake said firmly. Dr. Rodriguez, what is the status of the Unity weapon? Dr. Sam Rodriguez stepped into view of the camera. Admiral, construction is ahead of schedule, but we need the other species to deliver their technology components. Without HFY sensors and Velari energy cores, the weapon cannot function. On the screen, Dr. Clickstall of the HFY spoke up. Dr. Rodriguez, our latest sensor arrays are already loaded on transport ships. But I must warn you, the Devourers seem to be adapting to our scanning methods. They are becoming harder to detect. What do you mean? Asked Jake. At first, our sensors could track them clearly. Now they appear and disappear like ghosts. I believe they are learning to hide from our technology. This was bad news. If the Devourers could avoid detection, coordinating a defense would be nearly impossible. The Velari representative, Commander Tellara, raised one of her 4 arms. Admiral Morrison, our energy core fabrication facilities have been destroyed. In the attacks, we have only 12 cores remaining. Is that enough for your weapon? Tony Martinez checked his calculations. Commander, we need at least 20 cores for full power. Can you manufacture more? Not anymore. The Devourers consumed our entire industrial sector yesterday. Jake felt the plan beginning to unravel. Without enough energy cores, the Unity weapon would be useless. And without the weapon, the galaxy had no hope. Admiral, came a new voice from the communication system. This is Captain Ben Parker of the Valiant. We are engaging Devourer forces at the Kepler sector. The screen split to show Captain Parker on his ship's bridge. Behind him, Jake could see crew members working frantically at their stations. "Captain, what is your situation?" Jake asked. "Sir, we have 30 ships from multiple species attempting to slow the Devourer advance. But Admiral ... Parker's voice broke slightly. "Our weapons are not working. Energy beams, missiles, even nuclear warheads. Nothing damages them. They just absorb everything we throw at them." Jake could see explosions on the tactical display behind Parker. Ships were dying as they tried desperately to fight an enemy that could not be hurt. "Captain Parker, order all ships to retreat. Fall back to the secondary defensive line. Sir, if we retreat, the Devourers will reach the civilian evacuation routes. Millions of families are trying to escape." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. Every choice meant sacrificing lives to save other lives. "Captain, I understand. But we cannot afford to lose every ship in hopeless battles. Pull back and help escort the refugee fleets." "That is an order." "Yes, sir. Valiant out." The connection ended, leaving the war room in heavy silence. General Cooper spoke quietly. "Admiral, at this rate, we will lose the outer half of the galaxy within 2 months. Maybe less." Jake looked at the star map. Red zones were spreading like infection across the galactic arms. Billions of beings were fleeing toward the center, but there was not enough time to save them all. What about the Unity weapon? Can we build it with fewer energy cores? Tony Martinez shook his head. "Sir, the ancient specifications are very precise. The weapon needs exact power levels to generate the disruption field. Too little power, and it will not affect the Devourers at all." Dr. Foster looked up from her research station. "Admiral, there might be another option. The ancient records mention emergency protocols, ways to boost the weapon's power using alternative methods." "What kind of alternative methods?" "Voluntary energy donation from living beings. Multiple species contributing their life force to power the weapon." The room fell. Silent. Everyone understood what this meant. The Unity weapon might work, but only if thousands of people gave their lives to power it. How many would have to ... Jake could not finish the question. According to the calculations, approximately 50,000 individuals from various species. The process would be painless, but it would be fatal. Colonel Stone looked up from her station. "Admiral, long-range sensors are detecting a new development. The 3 Devourer groups are beginning to converge. They appear to be heading toward the galactic core." Jake studied the tactical display. The pattern was becoming clear. The Devourers were not just randomly consuming everything they found. They were systematically destroying the galaxy from the outside in, saving the most populated areas for last. "They are hurting us," he realized, "pushing all the survivors toward the center where they can consume everything at once." "Admiral," Captain Bennett said urgently, "incoming priority message from Earth. President Kate Williams requests immediate consultation." Jake nodded. "Put her through." President Williams appeared on screen. She looked like she had aged 10 years in the past few weeks. "Jake, I have been watching the refugee situation. We are receiving more ships than we ever planned for. The camps on Mars are overflowing. We have families living in cargo bays on Luna Station. Madam President, we knew this might happen. Do we have enough supplies? For now, yes. But Jake, there is something else. The refugees are not just scared. They are angry. Some species are blaming humans for not warning them sooner. There have been fights, protests, even riots." Jake felt a headache building behind his eyes. Even as they tried to save the galaxy, old prejudices and fears were tearing the all. The Unity weapon stood on Earth's largest continent, like a mountain made of metal and light. Crews from dozens of species worked around the clock to complete the final connections. Zephi-High technicians calibrated sensors with 6 different eyes. each watching different energy spectrums. Velari engineers guided massive energy cores into position using all 4 of their arms. Aquatic Dominion specialists managed cooling systems from water-filled worksuits. Admiral Jake Morrison walked through the construction site, watching species that had barely spoken to each other before the crisis now working side by side. The weapon was beautiful in a terrible way. Smooth curves of alien metal surrounded a central core that hummed with barely contained power. "Admiral," called engineer Tony Martinez as he climbed down from the main control platform. "Final systems check is complete. All components are functioning within normal parameters." Jake looked up at the weapon's peak, which disappeared into the clouds above. "Tony, are you certain this will work?" "Sir, the ancient specifications match our construction exactly. If the historical records are accurate, this weapon should be able to disrupt devourer feeding patterns across the entire galaxy." Dr. Helen Foster approached with a datapad in her hands. "Admiral, I have the final volunteer list. 53,000 individuals from 47 different species have agreed to donate their life energy to power the weapon." Jake's throat tightened. "Are they all certain? Do they understand what this means?" "Yes, sir." Each volunteer was interviewed personally. They understand that their life force will be converted into weapon energy. They also understand that this is probably our only hope of stopping the devourers. Colonel Amy Stone jogged over from the communications center. "Admiral, long-range scanners show devourer forces have reached the inner colonies. Earth's outer defense platforms are detecting the advanced scouts." Jake looked up at the sky. Somewhere beyond the blue atmosphere, massive creatures of living darkness were approaching his home. Soon, Earth itself would be under attack. "Colonel, what is the status of the refugee evacuation?" "Sir, we have processed over 800 billion beings through the Sol system. Most have been moved to underground shelters on Earth, Mars, and the moons. But Admiral ... we are receiving reports of devourer attacks on the evacuation routes. Some refugee fleets are not going to make it." The weight of command felt heavier than ever. Jake was responsible for the survival of an entire galaxy, but he could not save everyone. "Admiral Morrison," came a voice from behind him. Jake turned to see Dr. Sam Rodriguez approaching with President Kate Williams. "Madam President, I did not expect to see you at the weapon site." Kate Williams looked older than her years, but her voice was strong. "Jake, I wanted to see our last hope before the final battle begins. And I wanted to speak with the volunteers personally. Madam President, that might not be advisable. The energy transfer process will begin soon. That is exactly why I need to speak with them. These beings are sacrificing their lives for our galaxy. The least I can do is thank them personally." Jake nodded. "Dr. Rodriguez, please escort the President to the volunteer preparation area." As they walked away, Captain Lisa Bennett approached with an urgent expression. "Admiral, we are receiving communications from the outer defense grid. Captain Ben Parker reports devourer forces approaching Jupiter's orbit." Jake activated his communicator. "Captain Parker, this is Admiral Morrison. What is your tactical situation?" Parker's voice crackled through space. "Admiral, we have visual contact with the devourers. Sir, they are even larger than our intelligence estimates. The smallest ones are the size of Earth's moon. The largest ... Parker's voice trailed off. "Captain, report." "Sir, the largest devourer is approximately the size of Jupiter itself. It is moving directly toward Earth." Jake felt cold despite the warm day. A creature the size of a planet was coming to destroy his world. "Captain, begin delaying actions as planned. Use hit-and-run tactics to slow their advance. Do not engage in direct combat." "Understood, sir." Parker out. Jake looked around the weapon site. Thousands of people were still working to complete the final preparations. They needed more time. "Admiral," called Tony Martinez from the main control station, "all systems are ready for activation. We can begin the charging sequence on your command." "How long until the weapon reaches full power?" "Approximately 6 hours, sir." "But Admiral, once we begin, we cannot stop the process. The energy transfer will be irreversible." Jake understood. Once the 53,000 volunteers began giving their life energy to the weapon, there would be no going back. Either the weapon would work and save the galaxy, or they would all die for nothing. Dr. Clickstow of the Zephyr approached with her sensor readings. "Admiral Morrison, my people have detected something unusual about the approaching Devourers. They appear to be communicating with each other using some form of quantum entanglement. What does that mean for our defense?" "It means they coordinate their attacks perfectly. When one Devourer finds a weakness in our defenses, all the others will know instantly. We will not be able to surprise them or divide their forces." This was worse news. Jake had hoped to use hit-and-run tactics to confuse the enemy. But if the Devourers shared information instantly, traditional military strategies would be useless. "Admiral," Colonel Stone called out, "priority message from the Galactic Council. Ambassador Crickstall reports that Devourer forces have broken through the inner defensive lines. Multiple worlds are under direct attack." Jake activated the communication link. The main screen showed chaos on Centauri Prime. The council chamber was filled with smoke, and emergency lights flashed red. "Crickstall, what is your situation?" The alien ambassador's image flickered as interference filled the channel. "Admiral, the Devourers reached the Centauri system 20 minutes ago. We are evacuating the planet, but—" The transmission cut to static. When the image cleared, Jake could see fires burning in the background behind Crickstall. "Admiral Morrison, this is likely our final communication. The other council members have already evacuated to their ships. I am staying to coordinate the final refugee transports. Crickstall, get to a ship immediately. That is an order." The alien's green scales caught the light of the fires behind him. "Admiral, it has been an honor serving with humans. Your species showed us that some things are worth fighting for, even when the odds are impossible." The transmission ended in static. Jake stared at the blank screen for a moment, then turned to his staff. "Ladies and gentlemen, the time for preparation is over. Begin the Unity weapon charging sequence." Tony Martinez began entering commands at the main control station. Around the weapon site, massive energy conduits began to glow. The volunteers, representatives from species across the galaxy, took their positions in the energy transfer chambers. President Williams approached Jake one more time. "Admiral, I spoke with many of the volunteers. Do you know what they told me?" "What did they say, Madam President?" "They said they were honored to stand with humans in this final battle. They said that if the galaxy must have a last hope, they are glad that hope is Earth." Jake felt tears in his eyes. After months of guilt about abandoning their allies, he finally understood that humans had done the right thing. "Admiral," Captain Bennett called urgently, "Captain Parker reports Devourer forces have reached Saturn's orbit. The outer defense platforms are engaging." On the tactical display, Jake could see the battle beginning. Hundreds of defense stations opened fire with weapons that could destroy small moons. The energy beams and missiles struck the advancing Devourers, but the creatures absorbed every attack without slowing down. "Admiral, the volunteers are in position," reported Dr. Rodriguez. "Energy transfer can begin on your command." Jake looked around the weapon site one more time. Engineers from a dozen species worked at control stations. Scientists monitored energy readings on screens filled with alien symbols. Military officers coordinated with defense forces across the solar system. "Admiral," Tony Martinez called out, Devourer forces have breached the asteroid belt defense line. Estimated time to Earth orbit, 4 hours, 4 hours. The weapon needed 6 hours to reach full charge. Tony, is there any way to speed up the charging process? Sir, we could increase the energy transfer rate, but that would require more volunteers. At least 20,000 more, Jake's communicator crackled. Admiral Morrison, this is Dr. Foster. I am reading massive energy signatures approaching from all directions. The Devourers are not just attacking Earth. They are surrounding the entire solar system. This was the moment Jake had dreaded. A final trap was closing. Every Devourer in the galaxy was converging on Earth for the last battle. All stations, this is Admiral Morrison, he said into the general communication system. The enemy is at our gates. This is what we prepared for. This is why we abandoned our friends and turned our home into a fortress. Today, we find out if sacrifice and preparation can defeat an enemy that has consumed entire galaxies. He paused, looking at the faces around him. Human faces, alien faces, all united by the same desperate hope. Begin energy transfer. All volunteers. Thank you for your courage. History will remember what you do today. The Unity weapon began to hum with increasing power. Lights raced along the energy conduits as 50,